Now, I want to bring up my guest, my very, very special guest. I'm honored to have her on the air. She has been on the cover of Time magazine for speaking out, and she's was a FBI agent for 24 years. I mean, come on, this lady knows the inside things on a lot of issues, a lot more than I ever will. And she's a person of great honor and respect and love of country, and I just want to bring her on with all the fanfare I can. Coleen, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Well, congratulations. Thank you for coming on air. It means a lot to me for you to come on my show. It's a real privilege, and what I'm going to just kind of do is just throw it over to you and let you go ahead and just give your story, because I can't tell it for you any better than you can, but I will ask you some questions later. But please just go ahead and give us a little bit of what you went through and why, and what did happen to you during your tenure with the FBI.
Well, it's going to be a real summary because this could take hours to explain. But the convoluted, what they call the failures, the pre-9/11 failures to connect the dots, and all of these other, actually it turns out it's even worse than failures to share information. In many cases, it's failures of officials simply to even read information. There's like 5 or 6 main. If an official had just read a document that was given to him, 9/11 could have been prevented. And there are several of these. And then, of course, many other mistakes on all these levels. Well, after 9/11, I actually was just a peripheral legal counsel in Minnesota, but we had the one terrorist suspect, Musawi, here. And I knew what the agents had, the investigative agents had been through. And I knew then after 9/11, you began this cover-up and of course, to this day, the CIA and the NSA, that we don't even know what they've all covered up. Richard Clark was just in an interview where he's speculating some reasons why they never even tell the FBI that 2 of the terrorist suspects that they have on their list already in 2000, they had tracked them to Kuala Lumpur to this big summit meeting of Osama bin Laden's people and stuff. They never tell the FBI that these 2 have come into California. So all of, 10 years later, I don't think that many people in the United States realize this, but there has been this massive cover-up, and we still are learning tidbits about some of this. Well, I spoke out 8.5 months after 9/11 in connection with one of the first official inquiries that was called the Joint Intelligence House Committee. JICI was the acronym, inquiry. They had a Pentagon analyst that was heading it up, and the only thing is she was not allowed to look at the highest levels, so she couldn't go like to Bush and Cheney in the highest levels. And she bitterly complained that all she could do was look at the underlings, at a certain level and below. And then there was the JICI. My memo led to an Office of Inspector General investigation that spanned 2 years that just looked at the FBI's failures. I ended up testifying to the Senate Judiciary Committee. Actually, they identified a couple of the failures to read. Turned out in the FBI, the one legal counsel failed to read the draft declaration from the Minnesota office. So it's a mess that occurred after 9/11, where there was a cover-up. Is essentially.
Coleen, I'm sorry to break in on you. We have to take a break. We'll be right back, and we'll start on the other side. Folks, this is a very important show. Please listen to it, and remember what Coleen's telling you, please. Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Here we go with our very, very special guest. Very proud to have her on the show, former FBI agent, Coleen Rowley. Now, folks, there's a few people calling in already, and we're gonna get to you. There's no doubt about it. But we're going to do it at 33 minutes past the hour because that's the long run. And that way, it'll give you a chance to give your views to Coleen. And again, please thank you very much for hanging on. But Coleen has a lot to say, and I want to get her views in. Please go ahead with your thoughts, Coleen.
Well, I'll just summarize the whole thing. Is that, and it has a little bit to do with your story because when you have governmental wrongdoing and let's say some embarrassing, scandalous incident that occurs, You can see throughout history that this is always, usually the aftermath of some scandal that government officials want to cover up, at the very least due to their own embarrassment, sometimes it's due to their outright wrongdoing. You will always get this cover-up that goes on. It's everything from the priest pedophile and the Catholic hierarchy covering up this. I mean, you see this especially in, certain, obviously, war crimes. It happens, but it happens all the time. Well, anyway, it happened with 9/11. And little by little, information has come out, but it took 3 years for even the barest minimum that's contained in the 9/11 Commission report to come out. And in that 3-year time, of course, then you had the Bush administration saying they hate our freedom, all of this nonsense that was made up. We have to take our gloves off to go to the dark side. We have to begin waterboarding. We have to start a war on Iraq that had nothing to do with 9/11. So you had 3 years then of these really terrible responses that had nothing to do with the failures. In many cases, some of the 9/11 failures are simply people failed to read documents. I mean, and they were important documents, like the threats, saying that they're planning terrorist attacks. And now the FBI officials claim that they never read those documents. I mean, it's just appalling. So what I've tried to do, of course, and I speak a lot about the police state and this massive intelligence collection that's occurring on American citizens, as now is one of the responses. It's what the Washington Post called Top Secret America. And so there's 3,000 agencies, and they're all vacuuming up your emails and your telephone conversations, and it's the NSA vacuums up 1.7 billion pieces of data a day now, and puts them into computers trying to figure out who are the terrorists. So I speak out on those issues for the most part, on the legal issues, and a lot of the libertarian side who are very concerned that our constitutional civil rights are being violated, which they are. And again, this is partially because 9/11 furnished this pretext so that, the Bush administration and now the Obama administration don't feel like they have to follow, the Fourth Amendment and different, the laws that we have. They feel like they're above the laws now. So,
absolutely, and your views on the Patriot Act, I guess, are probably the same as mine. What are your views on the Patriot Act?
Well, you know what? I will probably educate or try to educate you just a little bit on because what's happened in the public mind, the Patriot Act is a shorthand for something that's far worse. In fact, the Patriot Act legally probably is only a 100th of what's going on. It's not the, people think, oh, the Patriot Act, but it's mostly this green light that has gone on that was called, originally it was called Total Information Awareness. And basically they just told all these government agencies, go start spying, go start vacuuming up info. Some of that is enabled through the Patriot Act, but actually it's just a small fraction. There's a lot more going on than just the Patriot Act. So there's my little piece of education for you. So as much as you are afraid of the Patriot Act, what I'm telling you is that's not really, that's just responsible for a small part of it. It does have some bad things in the Patriot Act, but most of this is in the Washington Post's expose last year. It's now a PBS show called Top Secret America. So I would recommend anybody who's worried about this.
Coleen, for educating me on that. I appreciate that. I did want to get into one more thing before we go to another break. Is Mr. Leibowitz, and he was a Hebrew translator, I believe, for the FBI. Is that correct?
That's right, and it's one of the areas I speak on whistleblowing. Because, and of course, this ties in with your effort to get the truth out so many years later, and it is, it's the challenge when you have governmental cover-ups of the truth going on, either due to embarrassment or covering up wrongdoing. You've got to have government whistleblowers who are willing to, especially if they witness fraud, waste, abuse, or a true illegal action, or a serious risk to public safety. You've got to have an ability to get that truth out. Well, since, I would say it's been going on for more than 20 years, but there's really suppression of government whistleblowers. And so this Leibowitz was prosecuted along with 4 others. Obama administration has prosecuted more whistleblowers than even the Bush administration has.
Coleen, when you got into public service for our country in the FBI, I know you took an oath, to defend the Constitution of the United States, protect it from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And the foreign entity here, which in my view has got us in more trouble and cost us more money and lives, and it's heartbreaking. It brings tears to my eyes. Is the government of Israel, the state of Israel, whatever you want to call it, and the address I saw yesterday by Abbas, the president of the Palestinians, and then Netanyahu's reply. It was almost a scolding to the UN as he started out. And, I don't think he was very well received at all. And if you would just please comment on that a little bit, Coleen, and then we got to take some calls because they're all lined up.
All right. Well, I'm just going to go back to that Leibowitz spy case, that he was tried as a spy, but actually he's a whistleblower because the documents that he apparently leaked were Israel embassy documents, and these documents show that they are working with certain Jewish relations community groups. Number one, to of course warmonger for bombing Iran, and also they're actually even targeting some of our Congress people. We here locally in Minnesota have a Congressman, Keith Ellison. And he went to Gaza at the time of, actually it was after Israel had its, what was that called? Cast lead.
Yes.
Lead.
Yes.
Right? When they were bombing Gaza, there were two congressmen, Baird and Ellison, who then made a trip afterwards. And of course, that does not stand them in good graces with the Jewish relations committees and AIPAC. So what they were actually targeted in some of these conversations, it appears, Ellison was. So this is important, and I'll just tell your listeners they can find the article. It's called Leak Offers Look at Efforts by U.S. to Spy on Israel. And in this article, it makes note of the fact that former counterintelligence officials, and this is New York Times, by the way, it's a good article by the New York Times, and it makes note of the fact that former counterintelligence officials describe Israeli intelligence operations in the United States as quite extensive, ranking just below those of China and Russia. And FBI counterintelligence agents have long kept an eye on Israeli spying. And of course, if people know that famous Pollard case where Israel has attempted to free him, he was spying on the United States. And many years now, they always make a strong pitch, and one of these times the president probably will pardon Pollard. But hello?
Yes, yeah, go ahead. I was just going to say,
I think that's important to recognize that Israel seems to constitute the third largest espionage threat to the United States. And this isn't me speaking, this is in the New York Times.
It is. That's incredible. I mean, here they call them our best ally and all this other stuff, and then they do that, and they sell the secrets not only to China, to Russia, and who knows how many people, when Pollard, leaked all these secrets to Israel, and they sold them to Russia and China. How many agents were killed? I don't know. How many brave Americans gave their lives for absolutely nothing because of some scumbag like Jonathan Pollard has the nerve to give over secret information, very, very secret information, to the government.